It seems like everywhere you turn these days, there's another ad promising to, put a little extra pep in your step, if you know what I mean. And today, we're diving deep into one of these so-called miracle workers, Max Performer. We're going to see if it lives up to the hype. We've got a ton of research and a really comprehensive review to help us cut through the noise.
Well, the good news is that Max Performer isn't just some made-up thing with zero science behind it. They do actually have some pretty interesting ingredients, and there's actually a decent amount of research on some of this stuff, which, believe me, is more than I can say for a lot of these products.
So who's behind Max Performer and what exactly are they claiming it can do?
Max Performer is made by a company called Silverblade Nutrition, which is based in the UK, and they're marketing this as, well, a solution for men who are struggling in the bedroom, so to speak. We're talking things like erectile dysfunction, low libido, and even concerns about, sperm health, things like sperm count and motility.
Okay, so they're really swinging for the fences with those claims. What does the review say, though? Are we all going to be ditching our little blue pills now?
Well, hold on there. It's not quite a magic bullet just yet. The review does say it could be effective, especially if you're dealing with, like, nutritional deficiencies that might be playing a role. But, and this is a big but, some of these ingredients might not be included in the right amounts, at least compared to what's been studied.
Okay, so maybe don't throw away those prescriptions just yet. But it sounds like Max Performer could still have some potential, especially if someone has some gaps in their diet. Let's talk about those ingredients. What's in this stuff?
They definitely included some of the, shall we say, usual suspects in the male enhancement world. The review focuses on a few key ingredients, so let's start with horny goatweed, or, for the folks who like to sound fancy, epimedium, the active compound, is called icariin.
Okay, before we dive into the science here, I gotta ask, horny goatweed. Are we serious right now? You'd think they could come up with a name that's a little less,
It really makes you wonder, right? But all jokes aside, studies do suggest that this icariin stuff actually works kind of like Cialis. It inhibits something called PDE5, which then increases blood flow.
Interesting. So does the amount of icariin in Max Performer live up to its name, so to speak?
That's where things get a little tricky. Max Performer has about 30 milligrams of icariin. And now, the research on this stuff is still pretty new, and most of it's been done on rats, but if you convert those rat doses to human equivalent doses, well, it seems like Max Performer might be on the low end of what could be effective.
So maybe not enough to, inspire you to climb a tree or anything, but maybe enough to make a difference.
Possibly. But, and you're going to hear me say this a lot today, we need more research, human research, to say for sure.
Got it. Promising, but not a slam dunk quite yet. What's next on the list?
Next up is maca. It's a Peruvian root vegetable that's become pretty popular in the performance enhancement world.
Maca. Okay. No crazy name this time. So how's this root supposed to work?
Well, this is where things get kind of weird. While some research shows maca might actually help, it doesn't seem to actually increase testosterone levels.
Wait, maca doesn't boost testosterone. I thought that was the whole point. How does that even work?
That's the million-dollar question. Researchers are still trying to figure that out. It might be acting through some other pathway, and maybe it affects energy levels or mood, or maybe it's even a placebo effect. Never underestimate the power of the placebo effect.
That's for sure. Sometimes just believing something works is half the battle, right? Okay, so what's next in this performance cocktail?
Let's talk about Korean red ginseng. This one's actually shown some real promise in studies, although we do need to point out those studies were pretty small.
Okay, before we get to the research, can you give us a quick breakdown of what Korean red ginseng actually is? Like, why should we care about it?
So ginseng's been used for centuries in traditional medicine. And Korean red ginseng is a specific type that's thought to be, well, more potent. It might increase something called nitric oxide in the body.
Right, nitric oxide. That's the stuff that helps your blood vessels relax, which means better blood flow, right? We're definitely seeing a theme here with these ingredients.
You got it. And the ginseng studies are really interesting. One study found that men who took 1,000 milligrams every day for 12 weeks said they had better firmness and they were more satisfied overall. And this was compared to the guys who took a placebo.
Okay, that's pretty impressive. So Korean red ginseng seems like it could be legit for erectile function. What about the dosage in Max Performer? Is it the same as in the study?
Yeah, actually, Max Performer uses that same 6,000 milligram dose that seemed to work in that study, so that's good. But there's always a but, right? It's important to remember that higher doses of ginseng, especially if you take them long term, have been linked to some potential heart problems.
So even with natural stuff, you got to be careful not to overdo it.
100%. Just because something is natural doesn't mean it's totally safe, especially in high doses. It's always smart to talk to your doctor before you start taking any new supplement, even something that seems harmless.
For sure. So what else is in Max Performer? What's next?
This one might sound kind of strange. Cordyceps, it's a type of mushroom.
A mushroom. Now, that's not something you hear every day when it comes to, well, are we talking about, like, portobello mushrooms here?
Definitely not something you'd find at your local grocery store. Cordyceps have been used in traditional Chinese and Tibet medicine for ages, though. They supposedly boost your energy, and you guessed it might improve blood flow.
Okay, I think I'm picking up on a recurring theme here. But does the science actually support that, especially when it comes to.
Here's the thing. The research on cordyceps specifically for sexual health is pretty limited, at least in humans. Most of what we know comes from animal studies, mostly in mice.
Ah, yes, our furry little lab assistants.
Right. But even though those studies were in animals, some of them did show that cordyceps might increase testosterone levels and, well, performance in those mice.
Interesting. So it could be a triple threat:
Yeah.
energy, blood flow, and maybe even a testosterone boost.
It could be, yeah.
Yeah.
But I got to emphasize that word, could.
Mm-hmm.
We need more research in people to really know if these benefits translate from, well, mice to men.
Fair enough. What about the amount in Max Performer? Is it enough to do anything, at least based on those mouse studies?
They include 1,000 milligrams of cordyceps, and according to this review, that's pretty close to the dose they found to be effective in those mice studies. So it might be enough, but again, more research is needed.
Got it. Promising, but we need more data. Okay, what's the next ingredient on the list?
This one's a little different. It's called bioperine.
Bioperine. Okay, that's a new one. Is that some exotic herb I've never heard of? Or another mushroom, maybe?
Nope, not this time. Bioperine is actually just a patented black pepper extract. And to be honest, it's not in Max Performer for a direct effect on, performance. Think of it more like a helper, like a booster for the other ingredients.
A booster. Now I'm really interested. What does it do? How does it boost things?
So bioperine is known to increase something called bioavailability, which basically just means it helps your body absorb the other stuff more effectively. It's like it helps the other ingredients get to where they need to go so they can work their magic.
So bioperine helps your body actually use the other ingredients better. I like it. That's actually really smart.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. Even with the best ingredients in the world, if your body isn't absorbing them, it's not going to do much good, right?
That makes a lot of sense. So we've covered the, shall we say, the less conventional ingredients. What about the basics? Does Max Performer have any of those essential vitamins and minerals that are important for men's health?
You bet. In fact, this might actually be where Max Performer really stands out. They include a blend of essential vitamins and minerals. And the review specifically calls out zinc and B vitamins as important ones.
Let's talk about those. Zinc is super important for us guys, right?
It's crucial.
Yeah.
Your body needs zinc to make testosterone. And, even if your testosterone levels are just a little bit low, you might notice it more than you'd think. Like your energy and libido could take a hit.
So making sure you're getting enough zinc is key. What about those B vitamins? What do they do?
B vitamins are really important for energy production. And let's be real, having enough energy is important for all of us. But beyond that, they also help regulate your hormones, including testosterone.
Makes sense. Because who wants to be yawning their way through,
Exactly. Those B vitamins are like the support team, making sure everything's running smoothly. And, that's one of the things I do like about Max Performer, even though, like we talked about, some of those ingredients need more research. Having those essential vitamins and minerals in there means that it might still help some guys, especially if they're low in those nutrients to begin with.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. It's like building a good foundation, right? So we've been talking about all the potential upsides, but obviously with any supplement, safety is a big concern. What does the review say about that? Is Max Performer safe?
Really important question, and it's something you should always think about, especially when it comes to something you're putting in your body. Overall, the review suggests it's probably safe for most healthy guys, as long as they take it as directed.
That's good to hear. Any side effects people should be aware of, though?
Most of the side effects that have been reported have been pretty mild. Things like, maybe a headache, a little nausea, an upset stomach, that kind of thing. But there are a few groups of people who should be really careful.
Okay, let's talk about that. Who should maybe hold off and talk to their doctor first?
Anyone with an autoimmune condition, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So something like lupus or multiple sclerosis, talk to your doctor first.
Got it. So autoimmune conditions are a red flag. What else?
For sure. Anyone going through chemotherapy should avoid this stuff. And men with diabetes or anyone on antiplatelet meds need to be super cautious too.
And that's because those conditions or those medications could interact with something in Max Performer, right?
Exactly. It's just always better to err on the side of caution and just have that conversation with your doc.
Agreed. Now, speaking of interactions, the review mentioned something really important about mixing Max Performer with those prescription ED meds.
Yeah, that's really important. Taking this stuff with those medications could cause your blood pressure to plummet, which can be super dangerous.
Okay, so that's a definite no-no. No mixing and matching those without talking to your doctor.
Exactly. Not worth the risk.
Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty now. How much does Max Performer cost, and is it, like, easy to use?
Good questions, especially if you're thinking about making it, a regular part of your routine.
Right, because, I mean, let's be real. If it costs a fortune or it's a pain to get your hands on, people are less likely to stick with it.
For sure. So cost-wise, for just a 1-month supply, Max Performer is definitely up there in price compared to some of the other options.
So not exactly something you just grab at the checkout counter?
Not really. But it actually becomes more reasonable if you buy a few months at a time. The 3-month supply is the best deal.
Yeah, that makes sense. Buying in bulk usually saves you money in the long run. But for those of us who like to, dip our toes in the water before we commit to 3 months of anything, what about a satisfaction guarantee?
They actually do have one, and it's
Yeah.
pretty generous, a 100-day money-back guarantee.
100 days? That's amazing. Most supplements are what, like 30 or 60 days tops?
I know, right? And the review actually pointed that out as a good thing, because with these kinds of supplements, it can take a while to really notice a difference.
That's fair. It's not like an energy drink or something where you feel it right away. It takes time for your body to adjust.
Exactly. Those ingredients need time to work their magic, so to speak. So having 100 days to try it out gives you a real chance to see if it's right for you.
I like that. It makes me think they really stand behind their product. But there's got to be a catch, right?
Well, kind of. That 100-day money-back guarantee only applies if you buy at least 3 months' worth.
Ah, there it is. So you do have to be willing to spend a little more upfront to get that peace of mind. What about convenience, though? Is Max Performer easy to order?
Well, that's one area where the review wasn't too impressed. Their customer service could use some work.
Oh, what's the problem?
Well, according to the review, the only way to get in touch with them is through email. No phone number, no live chat support, just email.
Really? That's kind of annoying, especially if you've got questions about something you're taking for your health. Sometimes you just want to talk to a real person.
I know, right? And while they do say they try to respond to emails within a day, it's still not ideal if you need help right away.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely something to consider. So we've been talking a lot about Max Performer, but let's zoom out a bit. Are there other things out there that men can try, whether it's for, sexual performance or just general health and well-being?
Great question. There are always alternatives. And the review actually does a good job of going through some other options you might want to think about.
Oh, perfect. What did they mention?
Well, naturally, they start with other male enhancement supplements. There are tons of those on the market, all with different formulas and ingredients. The one that this review called out specifically was Performer 8.
Performer 8. Okay, I think I've heard of that one. What makes that one stand out?
The review mentioned that they really like the high dose of ginseng in Performer 8. And remember, we were just talking about how important dosage is. They also have a really good dose of a high-quality ashwagandha extract, which is another plus.
Ashwagandha extract, for those of us who aren't familiar with, well, every herb under the sun. What is that? Why is it good?
Ashwagandha is an herb that's been used in traditional Indian Ayurvedic medicine for a really long time. It's considered what's called an adaptogen, which basically means it helps your body deal with stress better. And we all know that stress can really mess with, well, everything. Right?
No kidding. So ashwagandha can kind of indirectly boost performance by just helping you chill out a little. Is that the idea?
Exactly. And actually, some studies have even shown that ashwagandha might actually have direct benefits for, men's health. There's some evidence that it could help with testosterone levels, sperm quality, even erectile function.
Wow, okay. So it could be a win-win. Less stress and maybe even a boost in the bedroom. What other alternatives did they talk about?
They also talked about testosterone boosters. And while there's definitely some overlap with the male enhancement supplements, a lot of them have similar ingredients. Testosterone boosters are really focused on, well, boosting testosterone.
Makes sense. Before we get into specific products, though, can you remind us why testosterone is so important for men's health in general?
Totally. Testosterone affects a ton of different bodily functions. Building muscle, keeping your bones strong, regulating your mood, your energy levels, and, yep, even your sex drive and your ability to get and maintain an erection all depend on having good testosterone levels.
So if your testosterone is low, it can really impact your quality of life in a lot of ways.
Exactly. And naturally, as guys get older, their testosterone levels tend to decline. So for some men, a testosterone booster could be worth looking into, especially if they're experiencing symptoms of low T.
So it's not just about sex drive, it's about overall well-being, feeling your best. Which testosterone boosters did the review recommend?
They talked about a couple that stood out to them. One is called Testoprime, and like Performer 8, it also has ingredients like ashwagandha and ginseng, but it also has things like fenugreek, D-aspartic acid, zinc, and vitamin D, which have all been linked to testosterone production in some studies.
So it's like a multi-pronged approach to increasing testosterone. What about the other one you mentioned?
The other one they highlighted was Roman Testosterone Support. You might recognize the name Roman. They're a telehealth company that offers a bunch of different products and services for men's health.
Oh, yeah. They're the ones who do those at-home testosterone tests, right?
That's the one. And that's one of the things I like about their approach. Actually, they make it super easy to check your testosterone levels without having to go to a doctor's office.
That is convenient because I don't know about you, but sometimes going to the doctor feels like a whole ordeal.
Tell me about it. And the cool thing is that based on your test results, they can recommend the right treatment plan for you, which might include their testosterone support supplement.
Oh, wow. So it's like a more personalized approach. I like that a lot. So we've talked about male enhancement pills. We've talked about testosterone boosters. What other options are out there?
Well, the review didn't shy away from this one, which I appreciate. We're talking about prescription medications.
Right, going the pharmaceutical route.
Exactly. I think it's important to mention this because, honestly, for some guys, prescription meds might be the best option, the one that's most likely to work for them.
That's a really good point. So what are we talking about here specifically? What kind of prescription medications are available?
Well, for erectile dysfunction, there are the big names that everyone knows. Viagra, Cialis, Levitra. Those are all PDE5 inhibitors. They basically work by increasing blood flow to the penis, which helps you get and keep an erection.
Right. Those are the ones you always hear about. What about low testosterone, though? Are there prescriptions for that, too?
Yep. If your testosterone levels are actually clinically low, your doctor might prescribe testosterone replacement therapy. There are a few different ways to do it: injections, gels, patches.
Wow. Okay, so there are a lot of options out there. From natural supplements to prescription meds, it can feel overwhelming. Where do you even start?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly why I think these conversations are so important. It's all about giving yourself the information you need to make the decision that's right for you.
Absolutely. Before we move on to our final thoughts for today, though, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier. The review talked about telehealth as an option for getting those prescription meds. How does that work?
Telehealth is kind of a game changer when it comes to healthcare in general, but especially for men's health. You've got companies like Blue Chew, Hims, and even Roman that we talked about before. They all offer virtual consultations with doctors and other healthcare providers.
So you don't even have to leave your house.
Nope. You just have a video chat with a doctor. You talk about your concerns, your medical history, that kind of stuff. And then if they think it's appropriate, they can actually prescribe you the medication you need.
And they just mail it to you. That's amazing.
It really is incredibly convenient. It's a total game changer for a lot of guys who, maybe feel a little awkward talking about these kinds of things face to face, or for guys who just have really busy schedules and can't always make it to a doctor's appointment.
Totally get that. Wow, so much good information here. As we get ready to wrap up this deep dive into Max Performer and all of its alternatives, is there one big takeaway you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the biggest thing to remember is that there's no one-size-fits-all solution. What works for one person might not work for another. It's all about finding what works for you, for your body, for your lifestyle, your own personal recipe for success, right?
Your own personal recipe for success. I like that.
Right. And sometimes that means, you might have to try a few different things, maybe talk to your doctor, and realize that sometimes the best approach is actually like a combination of things.
So true. We've covered a lot of ground today, from all the details of Max Performer itself to a whole bunch of different alternative options. As we head into our final thoughts for this deep dive, what's the one big thing you want our listeners to walk away with today?
When we're talking about, male enhancement and all of that, I think it's easy to get caught up in looking for that quick fix.
Hmm.
that magic pill. But the question I always come back to is, are we really getting to the root of the problem?
That's such a good point. Taking a supplement might make things better for a little while. But if there's some underlying issue going on, it's not going to just like disappear, right?
Exactly. And those underlying issues could be all sorts of things. I mean, it could be stress, anxiety, things like your diet, how much exercise you're getting, how well you're sleeping, even just the dynamics of your relationships.
It's not just about what you're putting in your body. It's about looking at your whole life, your whole self,
Wow.
that connection between your mind, your body, everything, right?
Exactly. And that's actually one of the reasons I think those telehealth services we talked about earlier can be so helpful.
Mm.
It's not just about getting a prescription. You're talking to an actual healthcare provider who can give you advice, support, help you look at the big picture of your health.
Right. It's like having I don't know, a health coach in your corner, someone to help you figure it all out.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, it's all about feeling your best, physically and mentally.
Yeah.
And it usually means taking a multi-pronged approach.
Love that. So, as we wrap up this depth dive, our final thought for our listeners today is this. Don't be afraid to explore different options. Talk to your doctor and think about how you can approach your health and well-being from all angles.
Oh, and don't forget about all those basic lifestyle things we talked about. Getting enough sleep, managing your stress levels, eating healthy, staying active. That stuff makes a huge difference.
Couldn't agree more. All right, everyone, that's a wrap on our deep dive into Max Performer and all things male enhancement. We hope you learned a lot today and feel ready to take charge of your health. Remember, knowledge is power, and we're all in this together.